Welcome to Destination Outdoors. I'm Lauren Majera. This week we head north of the Illinois border, climbing the rock messes at Devil's Lake, hanging by the tips of my fingers. We wet a line on the beautiful Kankakee River, meet some youngsters who take their best shot at the outdoors with their bows. And then we end today's adventure hitting the big waters of Lake Michigan to try to put some salmon on the dinner table. Join me. We have a lot to explore today on Destination Outdoors. I usually like the ground right underneath my feet, unless I'm on a boat, of course, but I want to enjoy the beautiful views of Devil's Lake. So that means I need to get some altitude and learn how to rock climb. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Lauren?
Lauren.
Good to meet you. I'm Nick with Devil's Lake Climbing Guide.
Thank you so much for meeting me. I'm really excited to sort of get into rock climbing a little bit more. I've really honestly only done it one other time. Tell me a little bit about what we have here and what we are going to be doing today.
Sure. Well, we're going to start here at the CCC parking lot at Devil's Lake. We're going to be hiking up the CCC hiking trail to a place called the East Rampart, which is where the big cliffs are, and that's where we're going to climb. Before we get there, we're gonna get you outfitted with some climbing gear, so a harness, a helmet, some rock climbing shoes. We're gonna throw some things in our backpacks, some ropes and anchor materials, and then once we're all set, we can hit the trail.
All right, we'll see what kind of a monkey you can turn me into today.
I'm confident that you'll be quite a monkey.
Let's hope. All right, so about how long of a hike can we expect before we get to the cliffs?
We're gonna follow this trail up about 500 feet. It's gonna take maybe 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how we're feeling. We're gonna be going up these rocky, blocky steps.
So the rock climbing begins right here, right? I'm doing
This is the warm-up. Nice and slow.
Oh, wow. This is your office, Nick?
It's a pretty nice office, huh?
How did this trajectory get to be like this?
Well, this rock here is called Baraboo Quartzite, and it's 1.3 billion years old. It's some of the oldest exposed rock on Earth. And then it used to be under an ocean, and now, many years later, during the Ice Age, this was all created.
Nick's passion for rock climbing began years before he opened Devil's Lake Climbing Guides and says climbing is instinctual.
Well, I think everybody loves climbing when they're little. Like, we have to climb to get up to the kitchen counter, to almost anything. I see that with my kids all the time. When I started college was the first time I came up to Devil's Lake. My college had an outdoor climbing group. All the college students sort of taught each other. So that's when I got my start in climbing. I was 17 at the time. I just kept climbing wherever I lived, whether it was out east in New Hampshire or out west in Jackson Hole or down in Zion. I just kept climbing, and eventually I started to do it professionally. Here, I felt like I was ready to start my own business. I had a lot of the business skills that I'd learned other places, and it was just fun to start out on my own, just little old me guiding by myself. And then we're gonna retrace this knot. This is called a figure 8 knot.
Okay.
The first year, I think I ran maybe 15 trips, and now we have about 20 instructors. We help lots of people go climbing every year. Okay, Lauren, we've learned our safety commands. Okay, we've learned our head-to-toe safety check, and now we're ready to go. You ready?
I know we just met a couple hours ago, but I trust you. And let's try this. I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
I've got you. You're on belay.
Okay.
You can climb when you're ready.
All right, thank you.
There you go. The rock is a little wet today from the
Yeah,
rain this
super
morning.
slippery. Did I fall right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was great. You were just going a little too fast.
Okay.
The rock's a little wet. We just need to have like fairly static movement. You're taking huge steps
Yeah.
because you're flexible, but you're gonna climb better if you take a little bit smaller steps. The Midwest does not have a lot of verticality to its terrain, and so Devil's Lake is an exception to that rule. I love being up high. I love exposed rock. I love this combination of water and rock and beautiful sky. We've got all these turkey vultures flying all around. It's really not like most places in the Midwest. How's your breathing?
I forgot to breathe. Thanks for the reminder.
What we really do here is we help people bridge that scary gap between this looking like a crazy activity that only extreme weirdos do to something that anybody who can hike and who's an athlete and who is excited about getting vertical and into some interesting, hard to reach places can get into.
Thanks, Nick!
You bet. I think most people can climb. I have a friend who used to say, if you can hike, you can climb. So if you can go from the car and get up here, which not everybody can, but if you can do that, then you can climb. I think a great reason to climb is that it takes you really outside of most of your experience. Most of the sports we play don't really have much crossover with rock climbing. In rock climbing, you move slowly in general, and you really have to study your center of balance, the footholds and the handholds that you use. There's a little ledge above your right foot. Do you see it? Yeah, good. You're using your brain as much as you're using your body, and there's certainly a lot of emotion involved. Come on, Lauren.
I mean, you put your hand in there?
Take a break. Take a break. Most sports are really fast. We don't really have time to feel that much. Looking good, Lauren. Or time to think that much. In climbing, we get all those pieces of the puzzle. I think climbing helps people know themselves better. I think it helps them know their partners better. And it certainly helps them know the outdoor world better, which I think is really important because today, compared to maybe 100 years ago, like we have a much less close relationship with the outdoors.
Woo! I'll tell you what, it wasn't easy work, but it beats a day working at the office anytime. This is absolutely gorgeous up here. What an adrenaline rush. What a workout. Woo! Now that my feet are firmly back on the ground, let's wet a line. I want to catch some fish, but not with your regular spinning rod and reel. See what I mean when we come back on Destination Outdoors. I have a good idea. Let's go catch some fish.
Sounds great to me. Welcome aboard.
Why, thank you. We're on the Kankakee River with Captain Will Winans from Big River Fly Fishing, aiming for smallmouth bass. I do have some experience fly fishing, but if I'm being totally honest, I have not casted a fly rod in about 4 years. So can we just break it down for me all over again, please?
Sure, no problem. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fly cast. The fly cast is different from the conventional fishing cast in that it's two directional. So we have to throw the line just as far behind us as we do in front of us. As I lift the fly rod up off the river, there's a surface tension. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You see where the river more or less grabs onto the fly line.
Mm-hmm.
We're now storing energy on the tip of the fly rod as we lift. When I see the leader pop up, boom, I come to a quick stop, I pause, and then come forward. I'm pausing from this high point with the rod long enough to let the line get back behind me. When that line gets back behind me, I'm just gonna lightly push the rod tip forward. And this is how we retrieve line. Stripping line does two really important things. It's going to animate the fly, right? It's going to make it sort of pop or twitch on the surface of the river. But more importantly, probably, it reduces slack.
So I'm stripping line with this hand, but with this, is it more wrist or am I tomahawking more with my arm? Is it a combination of both?
Up and outward. One of the counterintuitive things about fishing out here is we're fishing for smallmouth bass, which is a wild native species. They're predators, but they don't attack these flies. It's not an explosion of water when they eat this fly. It's just a little suck down.
More like a
Especially if it's a larger fish, they're gonna approach the fly, flutter up to it, and maybe from like 3-4 inches below the surface, just suck it down.
All right, that was a really good lesson, but I think you've done all the explaining that you can do. At this point, it's just up to me to execute, catch some fish.
Let's do it.
Let's hit the river.
Been fishing this river my whole life. I grew up on it, so I can honestly say that. I've been running this guide service for about 6 years though, so took a lot of time off this river and finally came back to the Chicago area. And it's just a magical place for me. I'm a little biased, but I do feel that it's one of the best fisheries on the planet, certainly in the Midwest. One cool thing about it, I think it's untapped. You know, we're about an hour drive from one of the biggest cities in the country, and we have this gorgeous river, and I feel really fortunate to be doing this. So super important in this zone that we're coming into to get the fly tight to the bank. We're looking for underwater rock structure We're gonna focus big time on that colony of water willows coming up.
Fish, 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 fish on.
Oh, hit him, hit him. Okay, strip line, Lauren. Keep stripping, just keep the rod bent. Okay, good. Just keep the rod bent. Try not to point at the fish. We're gonna strip the fish in.
Okay.
Instead of, don't use the reel.
So strip him.
Yeah, keep stripping. Keep the rod bent. Try not to point at the fish. There you go. And we're just gonna wear this guy out. Got a nice jump out of him. Strip line. Let's not be so nice to him. Let's try to lift the rod tip upward. I want you to put the line on your stripping finger though. There you go. Don't take it off your stripping finger. Try to get his nose up. And when his nose comes up, you'll just slide him across the surface into the net. Okay, go ahead and lift. It takes a little bit of muscle. You can put a lot of pressure on this stuff. There we go. There we go. All right, nice work.
Woo! Ha! Nice job, Will. You
Well
put me
done.
right onto
That was
fish.
all you. That was all you.
Smallmouth bass made us work for it, but he was exactly where you said he'd be, right along the edge of the river there, right behind, was he behind some rocks?
He was on a little drop off.
A little
There's
drop
a
off.
seam or bubble line over here, and he's sitting right on that slope.
You called it too. He said, see that bubble line? Cast right there, and then he hit. He didn't give us too much of a fight, but on a fly rod, you can feel every little move of his head, every flap of his fin. It was fun.
I got a feeling they're gonna keep getting bigger and bigger too.
Let's go catch some more. I see all these beautiful different streamers and flies you have. Why did we decide to use this one here today?
Sure. So the river's low and clear today. So what that means is we get to fish surface flies. When we have visibility out here and the water temperatures warm up, these smallmouth bass start looking upward. And the really fun thing about fishing topwater flies, like these poppers here, is that it's super visual. We can see the fish approach the fly, come up and grab the fly. We set the hook. Nice. Keep stripping.
That was awesome! Oh, he spit it right out.
Hit. Oh, he's chasing. Hit. Set him, set him, set him. Okay. Lift them vertically upward and slide them. And then just slide them across the surface. Oh.
Straight in the net.
Nice.
Good job. Gosh, it's so fun fighting them on these rods.
Yeah, you feel everything. A big part of my job and the thing that I enjoy about it is like dissolving the misconception that you have to go fly fishing in some exotic place for trout, right? And I think a lot of folks in the fly fishing world are realizing that you can fish for other species and other freshwater species like smallmouth bass, which are, you know, that's our main target species out here. They're wild and native to this river, and they're just an incredible game fish. Yeah. Oh, hit him, hit him. Strip line. Most places you fish for trout, they're somehow introduced. You know, I think that's another huge plus of being out here. Right.
Nice.
Cool, dude. I mean, I get a lot of different skill levels of anglers, people who've been steeped in trout fishing or fly fished in all these different places across the planet, also just complete beginners. And so it's good to have that mix. I'm on the same river almost every day, but it's never the same river, and that's kind of what keeps my job interesting.
I really do feel like fly fishing is more of an intimate approach. You feel more of a connection as you target your fish. And speaking of target practice, next up on Destination Outdoors, we head to the archery range. It's 9 a.m. on a summer Saturday morning, but you won't catch these kids sleeping in or watching cartoons. They're competitive archers, and they're focused on their training at Chicago Archery in Elmhurst.
You're archers, right? We put the arrow where we tell it to go, not where it wants to go. We've created the archery range that's like no other. I hear it every day. I've always wanted to do this. I didn't have a place. Well, we give them that place. Learn it, nurture it, have proper equipment, proper instruction, place for the beginner to grow.
I, of course, Googled it, and then I found this place. I took a beginner class just like this, and then I fell in love with it and kept doing it.
And that's led to...
Me working here now.
What has been the coolest part about seeing some of these youngsters blossom into archers?
I have one of my students teaching a new student who is an excellent shooter. Come on, that's the circle right there. That's why we do it.
So let's say someone is in that position where they're like, I'd really like to try it, but going out and buying a bow is a little bit of a commitment for them. Where do they start?
Oh, they start with us, obviously. I don't sell somebody that walks in and says, I've never shot a bow before, I want to buy one. I tell them, you know what? I get them into a lesson. By doing the lessons and listening and talking to other people, they find out what type of archery they want to do. Traditional, Olympic recurve, compound, target, hunting.
I always just say start with a lesson, figure it out from there. We're not here to, steal your money. I'm here to teach you archery, and that's what I love to do.
It's going to narrow your focus of what's, instead of this 40 centimeter target, we're narrowing the focus down to a bottle cap. Who's going to be the first one to put it down and throw it to the bottle?
I have a confession.
Yes.
I was one of those people that walked into an archery shop and bought a bow without a lesson.
Okay.
It was 4 years ago.
And it's never wrong to do that,
I bought this bow 4 years ago. The tag is still on it, just goes to show how many times I've used it since I moved to Chicago. Would you be able to give me a lesson?
Of course. So now once you go to pull your bow back, you want your finger, hold on,
Off the
behind.
trigger, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
I know that
And really
from
get
guns.
this grip set before you go to draw. So fold your ring pinky finger off to the side of your riser. So you want to go all the way, yep. and
Oh,
push.
it's tucked in like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you want to turn your wrist out, not forward, just out. Good. And push right into the meat of that palm. There you go. All the way to you. Now don't lock that front elbow. There you
Don't
go.
lock
Yeah,
it. That's
keep it
probably
turned
why I
out.
destroy
Exactly.
my
Just like
forearm.
that. Get your pin right where you want it, and then let it go. Nice. Centered, we have it straight. And all about archery is not so much the yellow. The yellow doesn't always mean good. Anybody can hit the yellow, okay? What we want in archery is a straight, consistent arrow. So really push into the front of that bow. Good. Same thing. Stacked. There we go.
Hey, you
Awesome.
said yellow doesn't matter.
Yep.
We want a cluster, right?
We want a cluster. That's what we got. Awesome.
I'm hungry for some big game fish. Let's see if we can boat some monsters. Trying for salmon on Lake Michigan. Next up on Destination Outdoors.
Good to go?
Ready to go? The sun is just creeping up over the horizon. Scott Duncan says it's prime time for king salmon on Lake Michigan.
I think we have a chance to get, at least a couple real nice kings. You don't ever get a whole lot of the big kings, but if you get a chance to get a couple of the really good ones, it makes it worthwhile. You get a 20-pound king.
You're not forgetting that.
You don't forget it. No.
Are we aiming for just kings or coho as well?
Targeting the kings, we'll get the coho if they're around. We may get a steelhead too,
Ooh.
rainbow trout. So
Yeah.
those are wild. A lot of times you'll find them closer to the surface, but they can surprise you sometimes. They're right on the Illinois-Wisconsin state line. So we're gonna run out to about 60 feet, and from that 60-foot point, it dumps off into 90, 100 foot real quick, and the fish seem to relate to that hill. They're out here to eat. Some of these fish are in the last stages of their life. Big kings, a lot of them are gonna spawn in a couple of months, and then they die. So right now they're feeding, so we hope to go out here this morning and slam some big ones. My dad started fishing it early 70s for the salmon. I think they planted salmon in the 60s on Lake Michigan. Pretty much since I was old enough to go to the bathroom by myself, my dad had me out here. I've been coming out here since the 70s as well.
That's how you got started then?
Yeah.
Just hooked?
I kind of grew up, this was our thing every weekend,
How much weight do you use?
15 pound downrigger balls. It gets it nice and fairly straight down,
Right.
whatever depth you want. All right, so we're gonna run 2 planer boards out to each side of the boat. We're gonna have 2 dipsy divers, they call them. I'll show you those in a minute, and 2 downriggers. Downriggers and the dipsy divers go deep. Planer boards will be fishing for surface fish.
So we get multiple depths.
Multiple depths. Speed's pretty critical. If you get too much under 2.5 miles an hour, your bite rate will drop significantly. So I try and stay 2.5 to 3. That seems to be a good speed for the kings, cohos, and steelhead.
Captain Scott hand-tied what we're using today. It's a tinsel fly treble hook with a chartreuse bead.
So now you just hook the main line onto the downrigger ball with the release,
And let the current do its thing.
and down she goes.
With trout like these ones, salmon as well.
Yeah, more than likely we'll get a coho or a rainbow up high, but we'll find out. We may just drag it all day and not get anything, but we'll see.
I like our approach. Each one
Yeah.
is different.
Yep.
So we'll let them be
Yep.
picky and we'll just set up a buffet
Yeah,
for
if we
them.
get one on this, then I could set my other planer board with the same or similar situation.
Yeah.
And dial in a.
These rods will know when they hit because it'll go whap
Yep.
like that. One big one, or will it
Yep.
tap?
Well, like the downrigger, you'll see it hit and it should release. So when he releases, you got a pile of slack that's built into that line because of the line we got out and the line we got going down. So you want to jump on that rod and get that slack out and just make sure that that hook's in that fish. And then, and if it's a big one, then he's gonna just do the rest.
And now we're fishing, which sometimes is a lot of waiting, some snacking, maybe even a little nap. I mean, I've been out fishing where it's like hours and hours, and then all of a sudden you max limit in a matter of a half an hour.
Yeah, you just stumble into them.
That's what makes fishing so fun, is you're on edge the whole time.
Here we go.
Fish.
There you go.
All right, so like this, I let him run, don't fight it.
Yeah, I don't think he's very big. Just
Okay.
let him do what he wants for now. And so you gotta keep him out of that line and this one. So
Okay.
if he starts going that way, try and steer him.
Then if he stops real little.
Yep, yep. Damn, he's coming quick.
In the net! Woohoo!
There we go.
Nice, man. Thank you. What do we got here? Rainbow trout?
That's a coho.
Oh, yeah.
He's still not happy with you. Oh!
They are slippery.
This boat can do a lot, a boat this size. I mean, if you come out of the harbor there, you see all those big 35, 40 footers, you would think, well, that guy's kind of crazy going out in this, but a boat like this handles this lake real nice. You just got to be smart about it. Know your limitations and just be smart. Watch the weather. Everybody watches Tom Skilling.
Fish!
There you go.
Fish
That's a
on!
good one, too.
Oh, this one's fighting a lot more than the last one. Gonna let him run a little.
Yeah, let him run. I'm gonna swing this out of the way.
He's fighting. That's fine with me, bud. You're gonna end up in this boat, though. This one's fighting way more than the salmon.
And he's right at the surface. He's just angry.
Yeah.
He's spinning like a coho. Once he gets wore out, I can slow the boat down, and then we can make up a lot of ground on him. But right now, he's still a little hostile.
Okay. Ooh, yeah! I got you right in the face with the...
Hello.
Good job!
Oh,
Woo! What do we have here? Oh, wow! It's beautiful and definitely wore out.
yeah, he's spent.
Take a look at that beauty. Lake Michigan. Got king salmon in this lake. We've got silver salmon. This trout is gorgeous, though. Gave me a run for my money. We came to Lake Michigan for some king salmon, no such luck, but we did end up with a coho and a steelhead. The good news is we're not nearly done adventuring. I'm Lauren Majera, and join me next time on Destination Outdoors.